You're listening to the voice of IWA Flip here on Interfed Radio. And we're back. This time, we're going over the United Nations League. And with me in studio, Commissioner Scott Anderson. Scott, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Oh, man, you know what? I've gone on air and I've gone on record saying that, my current migration is to these elite leagues. So to have the opportunity to get, get this light on these leagues is, it's opening up a lot of different paths and a lot of different new connections for me in general. I mean, I've met some new people these last couple of weeks that, it's what the IWA should be.
Yeah, I have appreciated all. I listen to every show within a couple days. I don't know what that says about my social life.
Oh man, well thank you for that.
I'm listening to all the shows. I appreciate learning things. I think of shout out to the Rick Angel show, was really good. I didn't know that much about Rick, but I know more now. Definitely appreciate that he's in the UNL. But just in general, it's nice that certain managers. And I will preface with I am fighting a little bit of a stuffy nose, so I hope I sound okay tonight.
Oh no, you're coming in loud and clear. Now,
good.
Now the United Nations League, for those people out there that haven't listened, it is a theme based. Your characters there have to. Well, one of the characters there has to have either roots in Canada or the U.S. And your second character has to be an international character. And that's all you get, 2 characters.
Yeah, correct. And I recently had this question, do managers have to have 2 characters, right? And the answer is yes, you have to have 2. You can't come in with 1, you have to have 2.
Interesting.
Since there's no spending minimum, there's no reason that you can't have 2. Now, if you have, Lance Storm and you have William Regal and you're like, well, I don't really want to do anything with William Regal, so I'm just going to send in 1 scrub match every cycle for that guy. I can't stop you from doing that, but everybody has 2 characters. You have a national character and an international character. Part of the reason I do that is because I run certain things based on having that kind of equitable distribution between national characters and international characters. But also to kind of keep everything in balance. So that is it is exactly 2, as stated on the IWA website.
Now, no transfers?
No transfers. Something we were discussing before we came on was the idea of would I ever relax that? It is something that I would consider relaxing a little bit. As time goes on. I'm not prepared to do that right now, but there were some other leagues that recently kind of relaxed it up to, I think, like 100 wins or less or 250 wins or less. And I will be looking into that at some point. I think as the UNL grows and gets older, I think that needs to be looked at. I think a league that never relaxes transfers, at some point, the scales tip and you start not getting managers because they can't transfer in. If I have to create a new character where the top 15 wrestlers all have 1,000 wins, I might not be as inclined to go there.
Right.
Now, so at some point, I feel like it has to be reasonable.
Right. Now, I've gone on air already saying that's the reason, or not the main reason, but that's one of the reasons why I'm afraid of the BRL. Because there's legacy managers there that, and like I said, kudos to them. They've been in the game a long time, but they've and I don't want to say hoarded, but their characters are at the top. Their characters are taking the top 10, and I'm not ready to spend $3,000 to try and catch up to Sir Gunther.
Right. I mean, the BRL does allow transfers, but to your point, like when I had characters there, I had, say, like a plus 200 differential, and I was ranked between 40 and 45.
Tough, very
You know,
tough league. Very
so
tough.
it's awesome. It's awesome that there are so many long-term wrestlers there. I think BRL ranks among the very best leagues in the
Oh, by
game.
far.
But
Oh, yeah.
if you're looking for the television, not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You're not winning the U.S. or the world title out of there unless unless your name is Robbie Blood or something.
right. Mark Duchesne, who,
What?
man, I have
Ah,
this this or I have this irrational fear of being in any league with Mark Duchesne.
I was right there about you.
um, I I feel like I feel like I do well, but I don't feel like I high strats. A lot of good strats, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh,
Like I
yeah.
hit a lot of 494 to 497. I don't hit a lot of 500s, and that's just
Now,
the way.
now, now. I mean, I know we're sidebarring a little, but have you won the world?
No, uh, that
No
that
way.
the thing is, not that I want to downplay that accomplishment, but this is going to sound odd, but I don't play to get a 501. A lot of players take huge swings, right? They go up to the plate like a home run hitter and go for a big swing, a 501, right? I'm not doing that. I'm trying to get between, say, like 494 and 498 with everybody, with all my wrestlers. And so I play a certain way and I pick holds in a way so that I get somewhere between 494 and 498 with almost everyone.
You're like safe, safe.
So I play safe. So if I get a 501, that means the IWA swerved everybody because I shouldn't hit a 501. You know what I mean? Like, if I hit a 501, that means the IWA really screwed everybody else because I'm not supposed to get one with the way I
I,
play.
I, oh man, yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Every time I win league, like I told you, man, I go, me winning league is like some of these people making the report or like those people that are trying to hit the world championship. When I win league, oh man, I throw parties, man. I'm like, dude, ring the alarm, somebody blow a whistle, something. Oh yeah. But let's get back to the UNL now.
Yeah.
You mentioned the fact of having a national and an international fighter, and for those managers that don't know, Scott runs different tag team tournaments which require you to have a partner from an international background, or require you to have a manager from a national background, which because you only have one forces you to tag up with a different manager.
Right, which I think is a really cool aspect. That's actually how the commissioner tag titles are centered. Uh, national wrestlers can only challenge for the title with another national wrestler, and international characters can only challenge with another international character. It hasn't gotten as much gusto as I had hoped, but we did have this really prolonged world tag tournament that had national characters teamed with national characters and international characters teamed with international characters. And it forces managers to work together in a league where you only have two wrestlers to begin with.
Yeah, no.
So
When I heard that, I thought that was I was like, wow, that's nice. I mean, let's say it like this: in the IWA, there's so many leagues that you look for innovative ideas like that,
right,
and that one right there sits at the top right there. It's one of those that it's like, that's nice. I like the way that it changes it just changes that aspect of the title of that tag title,
right, yeah. And
Uh,
if I may, to your point, I think one of the things that also makes the UNL unique, on top of the other things we've mentioned, is, to my knowledge, it's the only league in the IWA that offers a credit to the tag team champions if you have
nice.
over 50 cards. So this cycle, we dipped under 50 cards, and I would be happy to explain that as soon as I finish this if you'd like. But the cycle prior, we had over 50 cards, and the tag team champions earned $28 in UNL credit.
Nice.
So it's just something different, if you like if you like tag and six man, I think the UNL is a good place to be
Now six man, that brings up an interesting point because as we're in most leagues, you have the ability to have your own flow.
Right.
Here, you're pretty much forced to to bring somebody else on.
Right. And actually, I have my two characters split. So my national character Naul teams with Quebec Hitman and Russian Reaper, who, as I mentioned on the previous show, are like pretty much the like cream of the crop as it comes to tag team wrestling. And it's like, let me hitch my wagon to that guy. So I actually we collaborate, and I send him my holds as this is for our 6-man, and I'm like, you got it, dude, and like full house. So I flow around him, and then I flow my tag around whatever my national character has.
Nice.
So it is this kind of added dimension of, in order to challenge for the 6-man, you have to team with somebody else because you only have 2 characters.
Oh yeah, I think that adds a different twist to that 6-man division there. Even more so if somebody wins the 6-man world out of it from there.
I know it hasn't happened yet, but I would love to see that. That would be very cool.
Yeah, that would definitely be real cool. Now you mentioned something about the spike, the drop or the drop in cards.
Oh, yeah, if I may, there are a lot of excellent match deals being coming into existence. You've got match deals with in the HRL and the NAL, where if you spend 18, if you spend $18, you get 40 free scrub matches. The aforementioned BRL, if you trash talk and send in a match deal, you get 10 more scrub matches.
HRL, not BRL.
Well, the HRL, if you spend $18, you get the additional 20. The BRL announced that if you spend at least a match deal and send in trash talk, you can take an additional 10.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something
I'm
good.
drawing a blank. I know there's at least, what's the other one where you get 30? There's one, the NSL. And that's the only time I'll mention NSL. We don't want to get too controversial. But they have a good match deal going. You get 30 instead of and actually I think you get an additional 10, which is all.
Oh yeah, there's some great deals that.
But if I may, I would argue the bonus is as good as anywhere else, even though it's every other cycle. There's no additional cost. So basically, in all those other leagues, you have to spend $12 or $18 in order to get your bonus. In the UNL, you can spend, I should say, you have to spend $12 every cycle, right? Every time to get it. In the UNL, if you chose, you could spend the minimum in the off cycle, right? You spend $5, and then on the on cycle, you're spending $12 just like you would spend anywhere else, but on that cycle, you're getting an additional $20 for no additional cost.
Nice. Okay.
So
nice.
Instead of getting, say, an extra 10 every cycle and spending $24, you're spending 17 and getting 20 still. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Maybe I'm getting too deep with my numbers.
No. That actually, like I said, getting that on air and just I mean, other than yourself, because you've gone on air saying it. Not too many people, look at all the bulletins or follow, everything. So, hopefully this gets some more people there when they realize, hey, oh, that's how it works. Because I was like, I mean, I had heard a deal mentioned,
right?
But I hadn't never put it put it together yet.
So to circle back around to your original point, what that creates then is on the cycle where you get the bonus, almost everyone is doing a match deal to get the 20 free bonus. So you get 40 scrub matches for $12, right? So almost everybody's getting 60 matches for $12 that cycle because you get your 20
nice.
And then 40 bonus. And on the off cycle, which is fun. But so then last cycle we had 85, and this cycle we have 35. And
It's a roller coaster then, definitely.
right. And hopefully next cycle we're back above, say, 60 or 70, right? I would be happy if every other cycle the UNL hit, the top 10. And I accept that because of the way our match deal is set up, that those cards are going to fluctuate big time, and that's okay. But so that's kind of the way the UNL, I think, will go. Now, it would be great if we could hit at least 50 every cycle, because then the tag team champions would get that credit.
Right, definitely.
But I don't ever expect the UNL to be at the same card count every cycle. That just isn't realistic.
Right. It isn't the way it's structured.
Exactly. Well said.
Okay. Let's go ahead and jump into the champions. This is one of the down cycles, so we'll call this the down cycle champions. No, I don't want to call them the down cycle champions. That sounds like that doesn't sound good.
The
either.
Under 50 cards cycle. Yeah.
The under 50 card cycle. And let's see here. League champion, Bill the Butcher Cutting. Our TV champion, Texas Hick Rick Rancher.
Is
the man. Oh, that guy. We got our Brazil champion, Walter Monk McGinn. McGinn?
I think McGinn. That's
McGinn.
How I've been saying.
Okay. Now, see this one, the next one here, the China champion. For a long time, I thought that was a stable. When I would see your report, I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool stable name. The little X's in there. But this is a person?
Yes. And shout out to my good friend, the Ladies' Choice Jake Joyce, because that name is actually TVB, and the X's are intended to be spaces, like you would see at, like the old time punk shows.
Okay.
But
nice.
Because he's a good buddy, I always say that is TXVXB, and I always say the X's just because if you can't give your friends a hard time, who can you give a hard time to?
I love it. So TXVXB
yes.
is our China champion.
Yes.
Oh man, shout out to Jake, man. I hope you're listening, man. I hope you're doing well. Our Great Britain champion and the Hawaiian Delight, Joe Kona. Yeah. Now this is your first elite champion that he won it 2 cycles ago?
Correct.
Nice.
So so this is the third or fourth elite title, and it came out of the UNL last time. Yeah.
Nice, very nice. Our Indiana champion there, Bandile Naidu. Whoa, you got. How would you say that one? Bandile?
You've got international flavor here in the United Nations League. I think you got it.
You're like close enough. Bandile Naidu.
Close enough.
And we got our Iran champion Naul, our Japan champion Strongman Tobin Wells. I just noticed that Blazer Corp is slashing ROT, or have they always?
No, that's the first time I've seen that.
Interesting. Okay, that's something new. So he's our Japan champion there, Strongman Tobin Wells. Our Mexico champion, the Italian Nightmare, Anthony Izzo. Our Nigerian champion, the Samoan Bulldozer, Tonga Meng. Our Russian champion, Aaron McFleece. Nice. That's a familiar name. Congrats. Yeah. And our United States champion, Vexing Vladimir Verklempt. Verklempt. Yeah, okay, that'll work.
Yeah, no, you got it.
And our tag team champion, Bill the Butcher Cutting, and Walter Monk McGinn. Oh, these tongue twisters are killing me, man. I love it though, man. Oh yeah, man. We'll get on the sidebar right now, but let's keep going with this. Our tag team champion is the Quebec Hitman MRP, and the Russian Reaper. Our 6-man champion, Noble House Valen Aria, the Samoan Bulldozer Tonga Men, and the Hawaiian Delight Joe Kona. That makes up our 6-man champion. And rounding up the champions list, the TV 6-man champions, the Quebec Hitman, MRP, the Russian Nightmare, and Naul. Now, just when I started these shows, at first we were reading off the champions, and one time I completely forgot to look at who the champions were, and I think it was over in the QPL.
Yeah.
Someone had used the names from Keenan and Kel from
Nice.
I forgot what I don't remember the name of the episode, but it was when he was reading off, like, he's the substitute teacher and he's reading off the names like A Aaron
Right,
and
like Aaron. Yeah.
yeah, he's just
Jay
completely.
Quillen.
Oh yeah, he's complete. And so I felt just like freaking, was it Keelan? I just felt just like him. I'm reading the names and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, oh
Keegan
dang.
Michael Key. Oh, I
Oh yeah.
love that show.
And
Uh,
I finally realized where they were coming from, and I just like slapped myself. I'm like, dude, this is perfect. This is fucking beautiful. Oh, man, yeah.
yeah.
So some of the,
Uh,
kudos to the managers out there, because there's, endless number, or not endless number of leagues, but there's hundreds of leagues out there, and with so many fighters, you would figure, some people are going to eventually come up with the same style or the same name. So
right.
it is interesting when managers kind of switch it up.
Yeah, and a lot of interesting stuff going on with our champions page. If you don't mind, if I take a second.
Yeah, no.
Bill Cutting, Bill the Butcher Cutting, and Walter Monk McGinn. For the listeners of the Rick Angel show, those are his wrestlers. He just came in a couple cycles ago. Hit league to him. Tag team titles. Joe Kona managed the rare feat of holding a regional title after being league champion. For those of you who don't know, the only way that can happen is if you lose the league title but place well enough in the battle royal to circle back in and hit a regional. So it's a really hard thing to do. Congrats to him on that. Out of his 3, which I'm sure we'll get to later. Right now, where he has lost all of his money, he's bankrupt, so he dropped the Fortune 500 from his name. So now, instead of being Fortune 500 Aaron McFleece, he is simply Aaron McFleece.
Interesting. Now,
really excellent story going on with him.
Now, Scott, you're breaking up just a little bit, so I definitely, I'm not sure how much of it recorded or not, but I definitely want to keep going, because I think the nook and cranny got recorded, but we said Aaron McFleece lost his money.
Yeah, Aaron. So the way Tough Tom runs the Aaron McFleece character, it's like a multiverse. So there's an Aaron McFleece in Gold, and there's an Aaron McFleece in UNL, and those are not the same person. It's like a multiverse, right?
Interesting.
So this is a different Aaron McFleece than the one you would see running around with the Midnight Society in Gold. So this Aaron McFleece has lost his money. He's gone bankrupt. So he changed his name and took out his nickname of Fortune 500. And so Aaron McFleece and his friend / associate Tim Batsu are running a really interesting character build right now, where Aaron McFleece kind of was the leader, but Tenbatsu won 2 league titles in a row. At the same time, Aaron McFleece lost all of his money. So there's this really interesting dichotomy going on right now, where kind of is trying to remind him of who he is. So that'll be a really interesting story moving forward. Also interesting to me is Val and Arya and the royal family winning the 6-man titles.
Yes.
They have a little skirmish in the trash talk this cycle. So it's interesting that they would win the 6-man titles the same cycle that they begin what will seem like a feud heading into the next pay-per-view.
Nice. Now I know we kind of went kind of fast right there in terms of multi-universe, and for those nerds out there that don't know, what I think most people listening are going to understand multiverse, but the way I kind of see it or think of it is like the Back to the Future, the alternate time, like an alternate timeline, like certain things happen. Yeah, certain things happen.
Well, just this idea of maybe for those who might be familiar with the fact that there's like a television show, The Flash, and then there's a character, The Flash, in the movies, right? And they're not played by the same actor. They're 2 different worlds. They're 2 different universes, right? It's a multiverse. There's a TV show, The Flash, that's doing its own thing, and then there's a Flash character in the DC universe in the movies that is completely separate and different, right? So they're two different universes, right? So in the IWA, a lot of us run it as one large universe, right? Like if I transfer some of my characters from gold to bronze, those are the same characters, right?
Right.
We don't start over.
Right.
Right.
I'm
But
right there. I'm right there with you.
but the way Tough Tom, shout out, awesome dude, runs Aaron McFleece is the Aaron McFleece in the IWL is not the same Aaron McFleece in the UNL. It's the same like premise, but it's a different. They're not the same person. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely clears it up because as soon as I saw the name, obviously the whole, Fortune character, was streaming through my head. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Right. He came over this way, and at first, like I said, when you were breaking up a little bit, I thought maybe he had lost his money and then made his way to the UNL to try and figure it out. But no, the multiverse thing does make sense, and it even, to the show that we're doing right now, it allows different managers who might not, or who may have missed his intro to the UNL. It's going to allow them to kind of get that perspective so that they understand, hey, you know what? Yes, I am using Aaron McFleece as, but hey, it's not the same guy. So just
right.
And that's awesome.
Right.
Nice. Now, you said this is building up to our pay-per-view, which is World Warfare?
Yeah. So World Warfare was the very first UNL pay-per-view in December last year. This year, World Warfare 2 will take place in January. It's kind of our WrestleMania, right? Our big show of the year is World Warfare. So pretty excited. It's coming up in a few cycles, and there are a lot of really good feuds building towards that show. Did you want me to go over?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like I mean, that's more than anything. That's what I want to get on this show is those characters. And I know some shows I kind of stray, and you guys will listen to the Derek Tuttle show, man. I want to shout out Mr. Tuttle as I think of him because we had gone and he's all like, hey dude, I'm real busy. Got a lot going on. Can we just start recording right from the start? And I'm like, you know what, brother, let's do it. Next thing I know, I'm an hour in, and I'm like, oh man. So shout out to Mr. Tuttle. I know it's going to be tough getting him on, but the hour that I did spend with him was amazing, and I definitely want to give him his props. But
sure. And if I may, sidebar for 20 seconds, talking about leagues offering something unique. Derek's league, the BBL, offers to me one of the most unique and interesting match deals is that instead of challenging 20 scrub wrestlers, and I'm sure it'll be on his show, but I'll promo it here too. It's one of the reasons I joined the BBL is that instead you can have 2 wrestlers challenge all 10 regional champions. So you can have 3 or 4 characters all challenge for all the regional titles for $12, which to the best of my knowledge, you can't do anywhere else.
Oh, that and for a small roster player like myself, I wasn't aware of it. I told Derek, I'm not going to lie. I have so much, here I'm here, there. I just didn't know about it. So when he told me, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's a good deal. If you're into that sort of thing, it's a good deal.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely going to take advantage of it there.
Yeah, but enough about that. Everybody should join the UNL. So TXVXB is his greatest. To get I'm going to send you a picture. He's trying to get Commissioner Anderson to sanction a match against Vladimir Verklempt for the United Nations title, even though the person who challenges for that title is the person who has the highest strategy over 3 cycles is kind of the like kayfabe behind the scenes
Okay.
reason. So he's in story trying to get Commissioner Anderson to name him number 1 contender. So you should be receiving a picture of a meeting occurring between TBB and Commissioner Anderson. So that's what he's got going on. We'll see how that develops. Jacob Vandenberg, awesome character, cracks me up every time. Attacks Tobin Wells. They have a misunderstanding. Well, the misunderstanding is on Jacob's part. So it's funny stuff. If you like TT, that'll make you laugh. Jacob Vandenberg is more or less where it's at every cycle.
Nice.
Val and Arya. Actually, let me backtrack. So, one bronze, IWA Metro, IWA Elite, and so in his trash talk this cycle, he throws some props and respect out to Noble House, right? Shout out to Kendall and his awesome stuff. So Joe Kona is saying how much he respects Noble House, and then Val and Arya, who's in Noble House, sneak attacks him from behind.
No.
And it is not reacting in a way that denotes mutual respect, shall we say. Basically, Noble House is not interested in any kind of like mutual respect type deal. In the Noble House, you are down or you're put down. And so Val and Arya will look to be putting down Joe Kona, and we'll see how that all plays out. But
now, interestingly enough, when we had I was drawing a blank. James on, he mentioned that he hasn't even had the opportunity to kind of wave the elite title in your other manager's face because he still has the money in the bank waving around, ready to pounce.
Yeah.
And has he mentioned anything in terms of what he's chasing, what title he might go after? Has he hinted?
Are you talking about Joe Kona?
Yeah.
Actually, he is challenging right now for the biggest prize in the UNL. He's challenging for the United Nations title against Vladimir Verklempt. So it's
nice.
a three match series, 3 cycle series. The tough part is, and this is how I run the UNL, is it's a 3 cycle series, and the challenger must win 2 matches. So in a way, the champion does get a bit of an advantage because he has to be beaten twice. There are leagues that do it on points. There are leagues that do say a 3 or 5 match series, like whoever does the best, right, over the course of the series. But in the UNL, the challenger must win 2 matches.
Nice.
The first match took place, and it was a draw. So that basically is a win for the champion.
For the champ. Oh,
right?
Nice.
So now Joe Kona, who's been on a huge hot streak, has to win the next 2 matches in order to win the title.
Now, if it's another tie, is that default back to the champion? Done?
Correct. So what can actually happen is that the champion, they could have 2 draws, and the challenger could win and not win the title.
Well, you know what? Like we say, there's a lot of ways to play. I think we mentioned on the LNL show in terms of that commissioner advantage, and like I said, we've gone on air with different commissioners and their stuff. So it does make it interesting to see the different takes for different belts, and it makes the game more diverse in that sense.
Correct, and I understand the argument against it. I do. I've had several managers ask me about it, and that's how it's champions. That's the champion's advantage because there's no points advantage. So the champion's advantage is that you have to beat them twice.
I like it. Yeah. Now, commissioner belts. How many belts do you have there?
Oh, excellent question. So we have the United Nations title, 3-cycle series against the previous 3 cycles, highest strat average among trash talkers. Then there is the
Wait a minute.
Can-Am title.
Did you say highest average amongst trash talkers? Like, are we number of words, number of?
No. So say you have a character that doesn't trash talk, but has a 500 cycle average. He's
Gotcha,
not going to
gotcha.
challenge for the title.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was like, how are you grading trash talk?
Yeah,
How are you grading?
No. If you send in trash talk, you're included.
Okay.
So, and actually, trash talkers and highest average. So that's in there.
Okay.
But then there's also the Can-Am title, which obviously is our national characters. Same idea as the main title, except it is defended against the 5th ranked national wrestler. So that's kind of like our mid-card title, right?
Okay.
International champion, exactly the same as Can-Am, except for international characters. Defended against the 5th highest average among international characters. So if it allows for more managers to be in the mix.
Nice. Now, defended cycle in, cycle out?
Also, those 2 titles are also a 3-cycle series.
Oh,
so
nice.
Everything is the same for those 3 titles, except the United Nations is against the highest average, Can-Am is against the 5th highest national average, and the international title is defended against the 5th highest international average.
Nice.
And just to keep things interesting, because we should have things cycle in, cycle out, right? There is a television title that is defended against the previous cycle's Battle Royal winner.
Nice.
And that champion, since it's a 1-match series, that champion gets a 3-point advantage in every title defense.
And you mentioned you had your first buy? Was it?
Yeah. So the first television champion was crowned in cycle 8. We're now in cycle 22, and this is the first time that the champion has won the Battle Royal. So congratulations to Texas Edge, who didn't have to defend the title this cycle because he won the Battle Royal last cycle.
Nice.
So he got a cycle off. But if I can talk about that for a second, Texas Edge is the current champion, and who won the Battle Royal this cycle?
Joe Conan.
Texas Hick, Rick Rancher.
Oh,
so we're gonna
nice.
have the Battle of the Lone Star State. I'm excited. It's gonna be a good one.
You know what? I must have missed that when I was reading the champions, but I guess the TV they don't put that he won it from the Battle Royal.
Correct. He didn't win the TV title from the Battle Royal.
Uh-huh.
He just happened to be, Rick Rancher, and he won the TV Battle Royal.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, but that's gonna be a good one. The Lone Star Showdown.
Yeah.
Nice.
So other big stories we have going on, speaking of Texas Hick, Rick Rancher, is he unmasked the Poison duo of CC DeVille and Akbar, who spent a long time, probably 8 to 12 cycles, sneak attacking people, and Rick Rancher uncovered that it was them. And so now they're building towards a match at World Warfare where Rick Rancher will have his partner chosen by CC DeVille and Akbar. That's the only way he could get a match against them, is to allow them to pick his tag team partner. So that'll be pretty interesting. Naul is kind of in between feuds, and so he's looking for a match, and he's calling out some of the recent wrestlers who have joined. So he's kind of, he's kind of giving a hint to Texas Edge or Sebastian Janikowski or Bill Cutting or Walter McGinn. Are they brave enough to step up and face him? Hopefully Bill Cutting doesn't step up to the plate, because it seems like Bill Cutting's going to be somebody to mess with.
Oh man! Every time, before we started recording, when you said it, it just, Sebastian Janikowski, really? You brought, man? Oh, who manages that guy? Jeez. Those Raiders, man. Jeez. Oh, brother, man. Yeah, no, it brought a big old. I'm just laughing. I'm like, great name, man. Great name. I remember because my brother's a big Raider fan, so he'd always get all upset about kick his ass, Seabass, kick his ass. I was like, oh man. I was like, whose ass is he gonna kick? The ball? Like who? Like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like,
So
oh
a second career for Sebastian.
yes, yes, I love it.
In the UNL. Um, and so usually one of my favorite TTs every cycle is from Vexing Vladimir Verklempt. Uh, Again, it's also in the vein of it. It is comical, even though Vladimir is a very he takes himself very seriously. He often is very comical by accident. And so this cycle is another cycle like that, where just the things he does and the things he says are very, very funny. So if you're into that kind of thing, it's really good read.
Nice, nice. Now, I know he had mentioned it, but World Warfare is not until January.
January 15th, yeah. Uh, I it really should have been the cycle before, but the cycle before is December 25th or December 26th. And I thought, I have a feeling like people are going to be preoccupied on that date. So I'm going to bump it back one cycle. So I moved it to January.
That's a good gut feeling you had there. Good gut feeling, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once in a while.
Yeah. Now, I gotta say this. I mean, you actually use release dates for your cycle as your pay-per-view days?
Yes.
Okay.
I find that alleviates confusion. I think a lot of managers, myself included, get confused when it says that SummerSlam is happening
In December.
Or SummerSlam is happening in cycle 44. It's like,
Right.
Does that mean the matches run in 44? Does that mean the results are in 44? So I use the date. So the pay-per-view happens on this date. That's when the matches will run. And I guess that maybe shouldn't be any different than putting a cycle number, but I've had success with it. People know this is when those matches will play on this date. And then I'm not beholden to, whether the IWA makes, the December cycle December or whether they make it winter, right?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, and it surprised me because I actually thought the IWA staff had like a calendar like already predestined, like this is going to be our 17 this year. But I was asking Kim the other day. It's like, hey, what's what's going to go in the little side thing? Because I was revamping the GNL and the ASL bulletin, so I wanted to know what was gonna go in that little sidebar. And she's all like, "Oh, I don't know until Iron comes out." And I'm like, "Huh?"
I know.
I go, wait a minute. I go, but I'm trying to do the GNL, which is Iron. How is this?
Right.
It's like, oh, well, just leave it blank. I was like, you got it. I can leave it blank. I can leave it blank. I don't need to know.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into too much. I don't want to get too much IWA insight while doing just the front cover. I go, okay, I get it.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that though, because this is November 1st. The day we're recording this is November 1st, but Iron came out in October, but it was November.
Right? Oh yeah.
Then that we were getting dog days this year, and I think Jake Joyce is the only person who is more disappointed than me that we weren't getting dog days, because I mapped it out over the summer. I'm like, okay, the Iron is, starts on this date in September, so that'll be September, and then the next Iron starts in October, so that'll be October, but the next cycle starts in October too, and I assumed, what assuming does, I assumed that if a second cycle started is when they did like fall, winter, dog days,
I still think we're gonna get a dog days at the end of November.
If we get dog days, I will be thrilled. But dog days is like a summer thing.
Huh? Interesting.
And okay, so we didn't get dog days, and I'm like, well, then what are they gonna do later in the year?
What they're probably getting. Oh, go ahead.
November cycles Even if it's only by a couple days, October 30th is October.
So do you think they're gonna do like holiday winter?
They do a holidays and a winter. Yeah. So I think they'll give us holidays next, and then December, and then probably January. But who knows?
Huh. Yeah, like I'm telling you, I thought they had it mapped out. So as I'm working on these bulletins, I was like
Yeah.
getting that inside info. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is interesting. This is interesting.
Well, and for those of us who track multi years, fall this year moved. Wherever fall fell this year is not where it was last year. Say it was like ahead of September. This year it was like after September or after October or whatever the case was, right? Like last year it was fall came after September, and this year it happened before September.
Nice.
So yeah, I don't know. I can't make heads or tails of it. Kind of like IWA drops. I can't make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, but I mean, you shouldn't feel bad because neither do they. Neither do they.
Like they don't even know.
They don't even know. They come up with it as it goes. But just to get back to the character stuff and the trash talk stuff. Now, write-ups and pay-per-view write-ups. Different leagues, different different managers, different um, different ways to go about it. The way I saw when I had my little stay with the MML and I was running my shows there, I kind of treated my league like a small promotion where I kind of had this vision where, okay, we're doing Thursday or Glorious Thursday, and in the back of my head, I know that I'm signing matches for it. So I know they're going to be throughout the entire bulletin. I know they're going to be on various cards because for some reason the IWA can't run my 10 matches that I'm running for Glorious Thursday on card number 1.
Right.
So that's just the way their system works. So they scatter them throughout the entire bulletin, and I got to go in and hunt down my glorious matches. But the way I saw it from a creative, from a trash talk, from a write-up point of view, is I thought of it like a small promotion going around from town to town with a small crew. Like, hey, just like, I think of it kind of like the old Saturday night wrestling where you would have, whether it was Gorilla Monsoon or Mean Gene, kind of just like, and let's go to the match, and, he points to
right. Yeah.
And next thing you know, they come back and that was a great match. But over in Charleston, we had this match. Let's go to the match. So that's kind of the way I saw my my league, and that's the way I try to incorporate that into the shows, and that would allow for certain fighters to interact at one match and still have their match later on down the line.
Exactly. No. Yeah. That's a good way to handle that in game, right? Yeah. Like make it make sense.
Now with your pay-per-view, is it I mean, obviously you have a date, so everything happens on that one night. So when you guys are doing the write-up, is it kind of like a show? Like, hey, the first match is I don't want to call it the least important match, but it's kind of it's one of the lower building feuds or the
Yes and no. I do treat it like it's all happening at a certain arena. So I haven't announced where World Warfare 2 is taking place, but a little release is that every show, every big pay-per-view, or we had a Tuesday night's main event over the summer, which was awesome. All of those have taken place in different countries, and all of those countries are the regional titles.
Nice.
So the first pay-per-view took place in Brazil. Then we had a show in Japan. Then we had Tuesday night's main event in the United States. And then Global's Greatest took place in Mexico. And so we're working through all of the regional titles. So all of the major shows are happening around the world in all of the places that the regional titles are named after.
I like it. Yeah, that works. Now, not to go too much into this one, but in terms of how could you say it? Especially in the UNL, where let's say someone like Naul, who is Indian.
Well, he's Native American.
Oh, Native American. Okay, let's say that. So he's Native American. Now, was it who was your other character? You had Naul and
Yeah.
Valen. Valen
So
is
this is
actually
actually, yeah. So my two characters are a Native American and a person from India. So an actual Indian.
nice.
This is something I go round and round with people about. It's just, I'm just a Caucasian dude living in the Midwest, but it's a pet peeve of mine when people refer to Native Americans or indigenous people as Indians because they're not from India, right? It's not necessarily that I care so much about being politically correct, although I often find that to be important. It's because it's inaccurate. An Indian is a person from India. And so my initial thought was I was going to have a Native American and an Indian team up, and I was going to dub them the Misconception Connection.
Nice.
But that didn't end up panning out. I split them up.
I thought you were gonna go with like feather dots or something, or something
No.
way out there, like no. Oh,
So I have a person indigenous to the Americas, a Native American, and I have Valen Arya, who is from India and is therefore an actual Indian.
nice. Now, to get back to my point in terms of like arenas. I remember you guys talking about this on your show where and this is true I think in the indie scene. It's true, it's true in a lot of sports where based on where you're at, you're going to have different crowd reactions. You're going to have different crowd support,
Correct.
So someone like like Valen, when he goes to a show in India, the crowd's gonna, take to him, and he's gonna get a bigger push in India.
Right, they're gonna pop big. Yeah.
Yeah. So and
sure.
Now how do you guys work that into, like, let's say, I mean, and obviously it's the imaginary word, so we can work it in any which way, but like in terms of like face heel in that aspect.
Yeah. Actually, the only person, the person I'll say this, the person who has utilized it the best is Rick Rancher. Our very first World Warfare took place in Japan, and Rick Rancher did some rather insinuatory, rather insensitive things to the Japanese fans during his match, which definitely raised the ire of those fans. And you think of Japanese fans as very kind of reserved and respectful. But he managed to raise the ire of the fans in the Torgan Hall with his rather prejudiced actions. So when you talk about how the arena affects the matches, I think that's the one I think of first.
Nice. Yeah, and like I said, I'm throwing it out there because it came to mind when we're mentioning this whole international aspect of this league, and it's just one of those things. Maybe some managers are having a hard time, getting some TT down or getting some ideas down. So I just wanted to throw it out there because I mean, to me that's one of the things that I would use in terms of my character there in the UNL. I would use that aspect of of traveling to a different country and possibly not getting the right reaction that you want.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's excellent. And the thing I do feel is important to mention, and I don't want to go over too much, but the UNL wants you to have a character from the United States or Canada and then an international character, but it is wide open how you play those characters, right? Those characters can be a team, they can be not a team. I would say at this point we have a good mix of managers who play their characters separate and managers who play their characters together. So just because you have that international flavor or international theme doesn't mean that you have to be beholden, right? You could have a character from Australia. You could have a character from, Great Britain. You could have, you know what I mean? You could have any number of characters, right? And I think sometimes we feel limited, but really the possibilities are very open in terms of how you play a character within that scope.
Oh yeah, I mean, just look at the diversity here in the U.S. alone. That just gives you, a spectrum that you can work with in many ways. I mean,
Right.
just
One of
just
my
in itself.
favorite plays on that. I'm sorry to interrupt you. One of my favorite plays on that. He's been inactive recently, but shout out to Mitch. The way he plays his Canadian character is, I thought, very interesting. He plays that character as somebody from Quebec. So that character has kind of a very like French feel, even though he's from Canada, right? Because
Nice. Okay.
it's just
Yeah.
very like, they speak French there.
Right.
So I just thought that was a really ingenious way to play that character. So you have these aspects that you can work with. So
Oh yeah,
I like that.
a lot of ways you can innovate characters in the UNL, and again, it just goes to show how this game allows you to play in different ways, and certain commissioners like yourself, I guess the best way to put it is are innovative, and they allow managers to just feel comfort or open up their comfort level in terms of their characters, and I said kudos, man, because
Yeah.
that league
Thank
has a lot of solid characters that we want to continue to highlight around here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the chance to come back on again and talk about them. They are obviously some of my absolute favorite characters. Even if I wasn't the commissioner, they would be some of my favorite characters in the IWA. So I enjoy
Nice.
talking about them.
Nice, nice, nice. And I hope this isn't the last one we get to do. Like I said, I want to continue to push these elite leagues and all the leagues in general. Like I said, I know I'm pushing the elites because it's my play style and my play preference, but at the same time, I've opened it up to everybody and anybody out there in the game that wants to come on and promote their leagues. And again, I'll say it on air again. I mean, if you're out there, if you're listening and you're saying, well, oh, he's only doing them and he's only doing her and he's only like, well, come on. Come
Yeah.
on, get your voice heard, get your league and your characters on air and get them a push.
Yeah, for sure. If I may, you recently had Will Wisdom and Terrence. What's his
Ter-
last name? Terrence
Haggard.
Haggard. Okay.
I called him Haggard, but he corrected me. It's Haggard.
Okay. So you recently had them on. I really enjoyed their show. There's a lot of good places to play in the IWA. So
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, no, there's and like I said, I hope managers can navigate their styles or their play styles to these leagues so that these commissioners can keep them going and keep building tradition here in the IWA, which is important for me to keep some tradition as well as innovate and moving forward.
definitely, I appreciate all the work you're doing, getting all that manager perspective out to the rest of us. I think it's an awesome thing. So thank you.
Nice. And we got some more shows coming up, guys. We're recording the RWL show later this week, so we'll have that one going as well with Sean and Brandon. And then, like I said, we'll keep this going as much as we can. But Scott, any last words before we sign off?
Uh, no, just that I appreciate being on again. I look forward to doing it again.
Nice, nice. Well, everyone out there, you've been listening to the voice of the United Nations League Commissioner, Scott Anderson, and myself, IWA Flip. You guys have a good evening. Good night.